Russia. The early 1600s was a period of upheaval and war in Russia. During this period, central Muscovy was gripped by chaos, with Muscovite boyars, Polish, Lithuanian, Ukrainian Cossacks, and assorted mobs of adventurers and desperate citizens being among the chief actors. Here are some examples of how different key players could describe their experiences and perspectives of the transition from the Rurik to the Romanov dynasties during the time of troubles. A Muscovite boyar's perspective. I was a boyar, a noble and a landowner, who served the Tsar and the state. I was loyal to the Rurik dynasty, which had ruled Russia for over 700 years. I enjoyed a privileged and prosperous life, with many estates, serfs, and honors. I also had a voice and a vote in the Boyar Council, which advised the Tsar and participated in the government. But everything changed when the last Rurik Tsar, Fyodor, died without an heir in 1598. His brother-in-law Boris Godunov became the new Tsar, but he was not accepted by all the boyars. Some of us opposed him and supported the pretenders, who claimed to be the sons of Ivan the Terrible. The first of them, the false Dmitry, was backed by the Poles and the Cossacks, and he managed to overthrow Boris and become the Tsar in 1605. But he was soon killed by another group of boyars who placed Vasily Shuisky on the throne. Shuisky was also challenged by another false Dmitry, who set up a rival court at Tushino and besieged Moscow for 2 years. He was also supported by the Poles and the Cossacks, as well as some boyars, including the Romanovs. I did not join them, but I also did not trust Shuisky. He was weak and incompetent, and he could not deal with the many problems that faced the country. There was a famine, a plague, a civil war, and a foreign invasion. The people were suffering and starving, and the state was collapsing. I decided to join the National Liberation Movement, which was led by Prince Dmitry Pozarsky and the merchant Kuzma Minin. They raised a volunteer army and drove the Poles and the false Dmitry out of Moscow in 1612. They also organized a national assembly, the Zemsky Sobor, which elected a new Tsar in 1613. He was Michael Romanov, the son of the patriarch and the nephew of the first false Dmitry's wife. He was young and inexperienced, but he was also a compromise candidate who could unite the divided boyars and the people. He was the founder of the Romanov dynasty, which would rule Russia for the next 300 years.
A Polish, Lithuanian, Ukrainian Cossack's perspective. I was a Cossack, a free and independent warrior who lived in the borderlands between Poland, Lithuania, and Russia. I was a Catholic and a loyal subject of the Polish king, but I also had a strong sense of autonomy and adventure. I did not like the oppression and the exploitation that the Polish nobles imposed on us and our Orthodox brethren. I also did not like the tyranny and the corruption that the Russian Tsars and boyars exercised over their people. That is why I joined the campaigns of the false Dmitries, who promised to liberate Russia from the yoke of the Rurik dynasty and to grant us freedom and rights. The first of them, the false Dmitry, was a charismatic and courageous leader who claimed to be the son of Ivan the Terrible and the rightful heir to the Russian throne. He was supported by the Polish king, Sigismund III, who hoped to expand his influence and power in the east. He was also supported by many Russian boyars, peasants, and priests who were dissatisfied with the rule of Boris Godunov. We marched with the false Dmitry to Moscow, where he was crowned as the Tsar in 1605. He tried to reform the country and to introduce some elements of Western culture and religion. He also tried to make peace with Poland and to marry the Polish king's daughter. But he was soon assassinated by a conspiracy of boyars who feared his changes and his foreign ties. They replaced him with Vasily Shuisky, who was hostile to us and to Poland. We did not give up, but we supported another false Dmitry, who claimed to have escaped the assassination and to be the same person as the first one. He was also backed by the Polish king, who sent his troops and his son, Vladislav, to help him. He also had the support of some Russian boyars, including the Romanovs. We set up a camp at Tushino, where we established a rival government and a court. We besieged Moscow for 2 years, and we also controlled some northern regions of Russia, but we could not overcome the resistance of Shuisky and his allies, who also sought help from Sweden. We also faced the opposition of the Russian people, who did not like our presence and our interference. They formed a national liberation movement, which was led by Prince Dmitry Pozharsky and the merchant Kuzma Minin. They raised a volunteer army and attacked us at Tushino in 1612. We were defeated and forced to retreat. The false Dmitry was killed by one of his own men, and the Polish king had to withdraw his troops and his son from Russia.
A Muscovite citizen's perspective. I was a citizen of Moscow, a craftsman and a trader who lived in the city with my family and my friends. I was an Orthodox Christian and a loyal subject of the Tsar and the state. I had a decent and peaceful life with enough food and work. I also had some rights and privileges, such as the right to elect the city council and the mayor. But everything changed when the last Rurik Tsar, Fyodor, died without an heir in 1598. His brother-in-law, Boris Godunov, became the new Tsar, but he was not a good ruler. He was greedy and cruel, and he oppressed the people. He also faced many challenges, such as a famine, a plague, and a pretender, who claimed to be the son of Ivan the Terrible. The pretender, the false Dmitry, was supported by the Poles and the Cossacks, and he invaded Russia. He killed Boris and his son, and he became the Tsar in 1605.
A Muscovite boyar's perspective. I'm a boyar, a noble and a landowner who served the Tsar and the state. I was loyal to the Rurik dynasty, which had ruled Russia for over 700 years. I enjoyed a privileged and prosperous life, with many estates, serfs, and honors. I also had a voice and a vote in the Boyar Council, which advised the Tsar and participated in the affairs of the government. But everything changed when the last Rurik Tsar, Fyodor, died without an heir in 1598. His brother-in-law, Boris Godunov, became the new Tsar, but he faced many problems and enemies. He had to deal with famine, peasant uprisings, and foreign invasions. He also had to face the challenge of the false Dmitris, who claimed to be the sons of Ivan the Terrible and the rightful heirs to the throne. The first false Dmitry was killed by the boyars in 1606, but the second false Dmitry was supported by the Poles, who wanted to take over Russia. I did not trust or like Boris Godunov, but I did not join the false Dmitry either. I wanted to preserve the independence and the integrity of Russia, and to protect the interests and the rights of the boyars. I supported Vasily Shuisky, who became the Tsar after the death of the first false Dmitry. He was a Rurikid and a powerful boyar who had the respect and the support of many of his peers. He also had the backing of Sweden, which was at war with Poland, but Shuisky was not a strong or a wise ruler. He failed to end the civil war and the foreign intervention. He also failed to appease the people who were suffering from hunger, oppression, and violence. He was overthrown by the supporters of the second false Dmitry in 1610, and he was forced to abdicate and to become a monk. He died in captivity in Poland in 1612. I was among the boyars who formed the Seven Boyars, a provisional government that tried to restore order and stability in Russia. We offered the throne to Władysław, the son of the Polish king Sigismund III, on the condition that he would convert to orthodoxy and respect the rights and the privileges of the boyars. But Władysław did not accept our terms, and his father did not give up his ambitions to conquer Russia. We then faced a popular uprising led by Kuzma Minin and Prince Dmitry Pozharsky, who rallied the people of Nizhny Novgorod and other cities to fight against the Polish invaders and the false Dmitry. They liberated Moscow from the Polish occupation in 1612, and they called for a national assembly, the Zemsky Sobor, to elect a new Tsar. I was a member of the Zemsky Sobor, which met in 1613. We chose Michael Romanov, the young son of Patriarch Filaret, as the new Tsar. He was a distant relative of the Rurik dynasty, and he had the support of the church and the people. He also had the support of most of the boyars, who hoped that he would be a weak and a pliable ruler, who would depend on their advice and guidance. But we were wrong. Michael Romanov was the founder of a new dynasty, which would rule Russia for over 300 years. He and his successors would gradually reduce the power and the influence of the boyars, and they would centralize and modernize the state. They would also expand the territory and the prestige of Russia, and they would make it a great and a respected nation. I lived to see the end of the time of troubles, but I did not live to see the beginning of the Romanov era. I died in 1615, leaving behind my lands, my serfs, and my family. I did not know what the future would bring for them or for Russia. I only hoped that they would survive and prosper, and that they would remember and honor me. Russia was also involved in wars with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Sweden, and the Ottoman Empire won. Additionally, the Russian conquest of Siberia was ongoing during this period. These events had a significant impact on the course of Russian history and set the stage for the reign of Peter the Great, who took power in 1689 and transformed the Tsardom into an empire.